In this video, we'll give you 6 running backs that you'll want to draft in 2024 fantasy leagues. I'm Jim Coventry, along with Anthony Cervina of RotoWire. Anthony, who's your first running back?
Yeah, the first running back I can't stop drafting. Baltimore Ravens new rusher Derrick Henry. And I love this situation for Derrick Henry. Sure, the Ravens had a little bit of a turnover on the offensive line, but I think the presence of Lamar Jackson and the RPO offsets that. Henry last season, he came off of a bad year for Derrick Henry. The season he had last year, over 1,100 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. A lot of running backs would love to do that once, and that's a bad year, like I said, for Derrick Henry. I'm expecting Derrick Henry in this offense, possibly in that 12 to 1,300 yard range. It wouldn't surprise me if he put another 10 to 12 touchdowns on the board.
My first running back is James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Conner had a career-high 5 yards per carry last year. His next best was 4.5. That was his first 2 years of his career. And last year, first time he hits 1,000 yards. What I like best, Conner was 94th percentile in breaking tackles and 97th percentile after contact. And in his 3 years with the Cardinals, he's been money, at least 9 total touchdowns every year. Now, Kyler Murray didn't come back till the second half of the season, weeks 13 to 18. Conner averaged 23.9 PPR points. Now Murray's back, and we even saw Conner score touchdowns with Murray. 7 touchdowns in the last 5 games. One last thing. Not much production from Conner as a receiver, but with Murray, 2 games over 50 yards. Now, Trey Benson got drafted, I get it, but Conner is still going to be the lead back. He's already given up touches to backs in the past. That'll continue. But he's going outside the top 20 running backs. You could get RB1 production when he's on the field, and he is going to miss 3 to 4 games. Bank that one. Anthony, who's your next running back?
Another running back I can't stop drafting is Zamir White, the new RB1 for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm shocked he's going as low as he is, 88.1 ADP, over at Underdog right now. And Zamir Harris takes over a backfield that we know they like to use a primary running back, and they like to run him into the ground. If you go back and see what guys like Josh Jacobs did, even last year, I get 2 years ago, 2022, when Jacobs saw 340 carries. That's an outlier, but last year, 233 on the ground plus another 37 receptions. That's a boatload of touches I'm expecting to go into Zamir White's hands. Nothing really behind Zamir White in terms of challenging him for touches, unless you like Alexander Madison, and Madison at this point is probably a plotter, a handcuff. He shouldn't be heavily in the mix. And Zamir White, he did get some opportunity when Josh Jacobs was injured last season. Zamir White had a couple of nice weeks. His lowest week as the guy, 13.1 points back in week 18, but he had 3 consecutive weeks with at least 14.5 PPR points. And all 4 of those weeks, by the way, in which he was the starter, he finished as the RB20 or better in PPR leagues. So I'm into Zamir White. I think he should be a little bit more expensive, so take advantage of it now until his price point adjusts, because I believe going into August, we are going to see a spike in Zamir White's ADP.
My second running back is Aaron Jones, now of the Minnesota Vikings. Now, durability is something people worry about. Jones did miss 6 games last year and limited in others. But I want you to know that Jones missed just 4 games over the previous 4 seasons. But when he was on the field last year down the stretch and in the playoffs, incredible. The workhorse back 118 scrimmage yards in 5 straight games. And he still plays at a high level, 64th percentile broken tackle rate, 75th percentile after a contact, and as a receiver, 73rd percentile in yards after the catch. Now, the Vikings, having brought him in a 1-year deal, they have no reason to limit his usage. They have no care to extend his career. The coaches are talking up Ty Chandler as a number 1. Please. Ty Chandler is a below average running back. Jones is a star. Jones will get 3 down work, including the red zone. And don't be surprised if Jones comes out of this as a top 8 running back in PPR leagues. And yet you can usually get Jones outside the top 15 running backs. Anthony, who's your last running back?
My last running back I can't stop drafting right now is Najee Harris, and I get the narrative with Harris. Eventually, Jalen Warren's going to take over. That's not going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, and it's not going to happen in an Arthur Smith offense because I believe Najee Harris prototypes as the type of running back Arthur Smith wants to feature in his offense. Now, the Steelers' offensive line has struggled over the years, but they did a good job this offseason trying to address it. It could take a couple of weeks for them to gel, but this offensive line should be better. And there's also now a threat of a competent passing attack, whether it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. The defense can't just focus on stopping Najee Harris anymore. And Najee Harris is he's a more efficient back than people give him credit for. If you just look at the surface stats and yards per carry and yards per touch, doesn't jump off the paper. But Najee Harris was 12th in evaded tackles, 10th in breakaway run rate, 4th in breakaway runs. So he's pretty elusive when he hits the second level and gets into open space. I'm looking at Najee Harris to outperform his ADP. I could see Najee Harris as a top 15 to 20 running back at worst in PPR leagues in 2024.
The last running back I can't stop drafting, Joe Mixon, now of the Houston Texans. Now look, Mixon has been a compiler for most of his career. He gets you about 4 yards per carry, but there is nothing wrong with being a compiler in fantasy football. And usually Mixon will get about 300 touches a season. Actually, he's averaged 303 touches in the last 3 years. And as a pass catcher, he's averaging 51 receptions over the last 3 years. Now, Mixon walks into a situation where last year, Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce caught 43 passes. So the Houston offense will throw to the running back. And of course, Mixon is very solid at the goal line. You know the Texans are going to score points, so there will be opportunities there. The Texans do have a good offensive line, but they also have great receiving weapons. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. So stacked boxes are not going to be reality for Mixon. And remember, the Houston Texans run that version of the 49ers running system with Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, calling the shots. That should lead to some creative runs that give Mixon added upside. Now, Mixon's going outside the top 12 running backs. The floor is rock solid. But again, don't be surprised to see him inside the top 10 running backs. Now, if you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the RotoWire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings by getting a free 2-day trial with no credit card needed. Go to rotowire.com/Jim to see all of our content.